Well, the Trojans came sweeping in here, mainly barbarian infantry, some of it striking all the way down here where the columns were still. You can see some of the units are out of column. I've got them white banded just to help me remind me. Some of the others ran into these guys and they succeeded in changing facing. So you had barbarian infantry hitting shock infantry in line with no advantages. Not a great situation, but in general the losses were 3-2. So the barbarians didn't fare too horribly, but they're probably going to go. They're not in great shape. We got some losses from this right away. Now the Trojan left flank comes sweeping over. These are barbarians' chariots. Pushing the chariots, hitting some barbarian infantry that had advanced too close. They're really kind of threatening the column units up here. They weren't able to quite push into them. But it's beginning to look pretty ugly. If we take a look at the points, the route points are down to 58 for the Danae and over 90 left for the Trojans. What that really means is, well, with the added penalty of the base up here and how that works for rallying, and the fact that Nestor's only a 2, I should probably have Agamemnon back there and throw away my momentums and just use them for heroes. It really kind of looks like the Danae are pretty much out of this. The Trojans, you could say, well, don't they have the same problem because some of their troops fall back there? Yeah, that's their back line. That's their reserve column. The thing that they don't want to commit necessarily. All the Danae have this problem of that base up there. None of them can rally any other way. And that's just, it's a limit. Only 6 units can be routed or rallied without having moved yet. Unless I can get a lot of leaders back there, that's just going to be a problem. Well, just one activation here, but it was a big one. Idomeneus was sitting kind of in the middle of everything and was able to splash out attacks, driving against here the shock infantry, hitting the barbarians, and they've got a chance to run away, but they're not guaranteed, and some of them kind of did, some of them didn't. And over here it was even worse, where there were some units surrounded, etc., where we see that the Danae are actually doing a pretty good job of breaking things. Now, not a single Trojan allied unit died permanently. They all ran back here. We've got a huge amount of routed stuff, which means we're not any closer to winning. But if we can buy some time by shoving them, maybe by threatening those, whatever, might be able to break through and get to them. Or if not, might force the Trojans to spend a lot of effort rallying their army and getting it ready, where we can actually empty out our camp again. Or maybe run away. This is just such a weird battle, primarily because of the Greek camp aspect. That really is bugging me a great deal. Well, Menelaus has the next action. I just took it. Mainly he's just triggering a bunch of attacks. I haven't actually rolled them out yet. But I figured out how to get a heroic combat. He just marched into his stack here. And he's going to fight against, I don't know who this guy is, Acanus. There's not really an option here. They've got to fight because it's a melee. So they'll both dismount and have a little tussle there. And I think Menelaus has slightly better combat ability, but he's got lower stamina. So we'll see if he can win this. Basically, I'm looking at, trying to take some high odds effects here to try to really smash the Trojans' ability to react in a large sector. This guy is still here, but just to try to paralyze them and finish them off on this area, and then so that I can get at those routed yummies. Ah, crap, I lied. If a leader withdraws, whether heroic combat, prior to heroic combat or during heroic combat, you ignore his next AM drawn. Even if drawn the next turn, it's considered expended. I'm not so sure that the Trojans would have withdrawn in that case. I mean, it's not worth saying I lost if you are going to pay a penalty, especially if it's hero versus hero. That's just route points going. Anyway, we'll ignore that one, but this one has to happen. Okay, so I don't think this is going to result in a death the way it works, but they each have, let's get him down here. He's got a 7 combat rating, he's got a 5. So we're going to have a +2 to the die roll on the Danaans. And in terms of stamina, it's 5 to 6. So what we do is we just roll 2 dice. We sum it with the combat value, but in this case, let's just add 2 to the Danaan. So that's going to be 11 to 3. Okay. Well, wait. No, because it's based on... Yeah, no, it's not that random. Now we got to add it in total. So it's 16 to 8. That's twice the value. So he takes 2 hits. Now, I don't think those hits affect his strength in combat. And they're only temporary, except you always carry 1 over from each combat that you fight. So, let's see. He's got the option to withdraw. He's not going to. He's going to stick around because he might be able to still win this. It's only 1 loss no matter what. So we roll again. And it's now 10 to 5. That's 2 more hits. He's getting into that dangerous zone, so he's going to withdraw from combat. Now, I'm not quite sure what happens here, because normally you would withdraw if the leader's stacked with a friendly combat unit unless he withdraws as per 4.24. See, this is a pure heroic combat, which sort of makes sense, but it doesn't really to me. I feel like he's shouldn't have an effect on the battle anymore. He shouldn't be able to give that +1 bonus that he'd be able to. And the only way to do that is to withdraw him completely by a space. And so Menelaus took no damage there. I've already checked the tactical quality. I just have that marker there to remind me that's where the battle is. And now, for every Danaan attack that they're making in this phase, they get a +2 to the die roll, in addition to whatever leadership advantage they get here. So that's, well, maybe the leadership advantage should be canceled out. Maybe he should stick around here. It may be a little extreme. But anyway, it was a victory in the heroic combat, essentially. So now there's a bonus across the board. On top of that, the next red counter, which is this one, is just going to come out. Theoretically, what I should do is wait until I draw it, but I'd rather just pull it out of the pile for now. That makes it easier. It happens to be the momentum counter anyway, so there's a possibility it would go back in on a failed trump. Not that there could be one. Alright, let me fight these battles out. And the cost for those attacks was pretty heavy on the Trojans. The Danaans have more or less gotten control of this beachhead area. And they've got shock units in line there. I've got their only remaining unit in column noted here. Everything else is in line. Maybe I'll take the hits crossing the river, or maybe I'll convert to column, move across, convert to not column. I don't know. Take it kind of slowly. Here's the losses there. 16 quick points. That's going to drop them down into the 70s, but we're still down around 60, so it's getting a lot closer. Getting a lot closer. Maybe the advantages the Greeks have are enough to kind of make up for that camp. It's pretty much a bone, though, I'll tell you that much. Alright, and that's the end of the round. Got this weird little situation with a couple of Trojan chariots down here, kind of behind some other chariots. Fighting going on here, mainly barbarian infantry here. That can't really hold up against what it's facing. They've got to get out of there. On the other hand, a lot of routed Trojans. The line here is really strong. There's nothing coming at that. No reason to. I'm going to roll up this side, try to get to the goodies. So the Trojans, while they thought they were doing really well, may be in a lot of trouble. On the other hand, the camp's filling up again. Nestor's doing a great job rallying things with his little 2 rating. He's actually getting a lot of luck there. It's 30% chance each time. But still, I think he's getting closer to 50%. But it's not enough. Prolonged fighting is tough on the Greeks for whatever reason. It's an interesting situation. I'm not thrilled with it, with the camp factor, but it definitely does put a more difficult kind of choices on the Greeks that, what do? You got to clear that out. How do you get that cleared? I don't know. I've got sort of a minimal solution of having a leader there. I tried to go without one. Because you don't really need someone to rally these troops. At least not until things get really bad. Alright, well, looks like we're up for another turn. Well, the Trojans enter this new big turn with a big rally attempt using, I don't know what his name is, Kamas. And that means they could only do limited attacking. You can see there's a engagement here. They pushed through over on a unit there, did a little bit of firing. But they couldn't really advance into any new things. I was thinking about trying to get these guys out of here, but it is so hard to disengage. I'm not talking about disengaged by the disengagement rules, which is a different matter. I'm talking about getting these guys safely away from the enemy. It just doesn't look possible. So, chances are when they rout, they'll go back to their out pool, and I'll be able to rally them there. That'll be easier than expending an action to try to get them out of there. Best comes to best, for the Trojans, I might end up knocking out some of these units. I was actually thinking about doing a preemptive strike, but it seemed more important to get some units rallying right off the bat, just in case things break through and start getting really ugly. You can see Dominius was able to trigger an attack sweeping aside. Now some of them were able to run back a little ways, but a significant amount of those barbarians got knocked back, and also crossing of the river. His range is quite good, and he was able to effect attacks all the way down to here. Danaan momentum chit is spent in the same general area, same leader. Kind of fired, I don't know. Mixed losses here is the big thing. Both sides taking losses, and to tell you the truth, the Danaans are the ones who can afford it a little bit less. So it should be kind of ugly. Let's take a look at what we're looking at. They've got 13 more losses, which puts them down to 40. Well, the Trojans pick up 11, dropping them to 57. Bit of a serious attempt at gamesmanship here. The Trojans tried to trump Nestor to prevent the Danaans from being able to clear out a couple more spaces, make life remain difficult for them to continue the offensive, because that's part of why they're losing forces. Is they attack, they get units routed, but the line looks terrible for the Trojans. Their routed stuff is right up here on the front now, and they've rallied some of the stuff in the back, but more stuff's collected there. So they've got real problems, and they want to try to make sure that the Danaans can't continue the attack. Well, Hector failed, and in doing so, that means, since the momentum chit's already still in here, they're going to get 2 momentum attempts. No guarantee that they're going to work, but it's an interesting possibility. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the turn, and there's not much changed. A little bit of engagement here knocked. Actually, both units died before they charged. Basically, the pre-shock tactical quality checks, both sides just threw down their weapons and left. Got some rallying to do. This thing, no big deal. I got some serious problems where I'm totally out of route markers. These bigger battles, usually the games stretch it a little beyond what the counter mix can handle, even when you're spreading them out among several spaces. Alright, this one's going up.